Hey guys, what's going on? Today is May 3rd, and the situation about the Shanghai lockdown has relaxed a little bit. So we can just go out within our compound. Uh, so we're waiting until we can, get out the actual compound. So then it's officially sort of like over precautionary, and then yeah, we'll probably move on from there. So today I want to actually talk about something else besides um, COVID or quarantine. So I came across this like really interesting concept of like there's a certain group of Chinese people that hates actually China's rise. Um, and Yeah, I actually met these type of people, but I never came across like really understanding its concept. So I want to explain to you like this certain group of people hating the idea of a rising China. So let's let's imagine like a scenario. So let's say like in year 2000, when already like China was like you know on its way to like you know becoming the second biggest economy, and you know on the verge to becoming the number one. So imagine during that time in year 2000, there were still like a majority of local Chinese people. Like they're so like a lot of young people's, I wouldn't say dream, but then you know goal like part like you know one of their ambitions was to migrate maybe to the United States or to the West. Yeah, during that time still, but then over the course of 20 years, there's less and less because of the development of China. So so in order to leave the country, you have to be like a really good in school. Would need a lot of money. So if rich people, you know, it's kind of solves the problem if you're rich. But for those like normal people, so in order to leave the country or like like having opportunities abroad, you would need sort of like a certain amount of money to go to school there or like open a business, what have you. So they would have to like a regular family to borrow a lot of money, um, borrow from relatives, a lot of money, and able to leave the country, whatever status on maybe on a student visa or like immigration, like whatever ways there is to migrate to another country. So that person would go study abroad in year 2000, and then decide to stay there and then get married, whatever, like get a green card, etc. And then yeah, that's sort of like borrowing all that money from relatives. Like it's a huge sort of like an investment, investment in your future. And then assuming these people will come back every 2 3 years to visit and stuff, and then seeing the progress of the development of China, and I see like wow, yeah, China's doing pretty good in year 2000 in terms of development. And these overseas Chinese people that went to the United States will come back and just kind of like brag a little bit about their status, if they got their passport or their lifestyle being superior over here. And then yeah, kind of like what ultimately they want, like to showing off like a better lifestyle maybe. But at the same time, they notice like the steady improvement of the society in China, faster and faster. Maybe not as obvious, initially when they leave, over the course of um, 5 years, and then they will like notice this change and development in China steadily, gradually, So they'll come back and see the progress, but at the same time, they would tell people, bragging, you know, how they have succeeded in the U.S., even though like maybe the reality may be very different, like a lot of struggle, in a different culture, a new culture. If you move to California, it may be easier, but if you move to like different states where you like less Chinese people, probably like you probably experience a lot of like cult- culture shock or like adaptation issues. So of course they're not going to tell you about the struggle because they borrow a lot of money, and they're not going to tell you like this they fail. There's a I think in China is a culture of shame, the face. They don't want to lose face, and so like they would only present like the nice things, even if they fail. So let's say like in year 2009, it will come back. That was the time when I moved to China actually, and year 2009 it was still when I came here it was kind of shocked too, like how good it was already, like compared to whatever you hear in Western media, like media in general that you hear about China is like very different. But by that time, it was for me it was like pretty good development already, and but that's when like 2009 when it really like kick started, like when it took off, like the development even went faster, like you see like these subway lines and stuff pop up here and there in Shanghai. It's like it was so fast, like within a year you got a subway line here, and then boom, there's a new building here, like boom, there's like the whole city within a few years changed so much. And I came here in 2009, and I visited the Bay Area back in 2019. So after 10 years I went back, and the only thing that changed was I only see like one new building, and the rest is the same subway. I was hoping for a new line from South Bay to San Jose. They had planned this like for the longest time, but it never happened. So the whole entire system after I think 20 something years is the same, hasn't changed. And the only thing I saw the difference is like there's a lot of like homeless people. And then when I actually took the subway, the BART from San Francisco to Berkeley, and we passed by Oakland. It was pretty scary. All these fucking crazy people in a subway, just like popping up like nowhere. All of a sudden, like some homeless people in the back. It's like, oh shit, man, this is fucking crazy. I mean, so that was the only change. Like more crazy people, basically. So let's go back to like the person who moved to the States, and then it came back in 2009. Maybe after 9 years, it's still like seeing like a significant improvement. So then I realized like at that time already, like, oh shit, I mean people are living after a few years, like maybe 2015, living already like a pretty good lifestyle, maybe equal to people in the US, if not better, and progress about in a lot of aspect in a lot of industry sectors right now have already overtaken the United States, like electronics and stuff like cell phones, TV. Yeah, in terms of like the electronic sector, like there's so many things like electronic overtaken, like stuff that you have probably in the US have never seen in Europe. And EV cars, like I think from this, I see so many new brands and designs here. It's crazy. I think from this year on, or like next year, gonna overtake like Tesla and all these European brands, Mercedes. It's just a matter of like reputation. Like you always hear like German cars are the best, and stuff. That's just in your mind. But if you're looking at the car, what you can get for the same value is just crazy. I mean, I think all this like the Xiaopeng, these cars are so amazing. The design is pretty, and all the tech, the spec, they're equally good as the European cars. In terms of like definitely in the if you compare with the same price range, it's definitely better than European cars from what you get for the same price. So now let's say that after 20 years that person like realize, oh shit, the people like here in China like living better than I am in the US, like. And so like 20 years ago when you have invested money in my immigrating to the United States or Europe, you would have made a pretty bad investment. You borrow all this money and you have to pay back, and then you move to another country that probably is just equal or just worse. And I think it's actually worse. If you had me live in San Francisco or in Shanghai, would like it's probably like for me as an Asian person or of Chinese descent, and probably like way better, to live here than in the U.S. for me definitely. But that would be like a false investment for that person. So in that idea, I would say they don't want, they hate to see China's rise, because that means like that kind of like verifies that they did like a shitty investment in 20 years ago, when they had assumed that they would probably live a way better life. But then it turns out like after 20 years they borrow all this money in order to leave the country, but then really find out that China is actually a better place to live. And now because of a shame culture in China, the given face, they would not, even if it's true, they would not tell you. But so these people probably hate the idea that a rising China, the more China rises, the more their investment went to the toilet basically. So these people, like I give you like a personal experience. I think I had distant relatives that moved from Guangzhou like 10 years ago to Germany, and they speak so bad about China that and they know it's not true, because every time they come back visit, they actually don't speak the language over there, and then they're having so much fun every time they come back home to China. They would enjoy the culture, but at the same time they always talk bad about China. See, oh, you guys live in a shithole, even though they like China, because it's their culture, right? And when I go back to Germany, it's not their culture. Or they just like live in kind of like in solitude, within their small community, because there isn't like too many Asian people there. So all they can just talk smack about China that kind of make them happy, but they know inside themselves that they made a shitty investment, to borrow all that fucking money and then leave the country, and then every year you get a vacation, you fly back to China to just get a better life, when you could have stayed here and not having borrowed all this money, and you would live a pretty good life for, I would say, a person that doesn't speak the language of their current citizenship, so they're just living in denial, basically saying like they're living in a imaginary like superior life somewhere, holding a foreign passport. But so yeah, that's kind of like a interesting one, the concept, like how they actually came to hate China, this particular group. So that was like interesting idea. Like I came across a lot of these people who like recently sort of like moved to Europe or United States, but then start bashing China. Even though like China has like the lifestyle, like it's a lot better now, way better. And some surpass like the lifestyle of the United States. And that was pretty. This guy with his kid is pretty annoying. Okay, he's leaving now. So I actually know a lot of these type of like overseas Chinese people. Whether they move to Hong Kong, it's not like Hong Kong is like it's part of China. I mean, it's a city of China, but then somehow they have this kind of arrogance, when they move to a foreign country, and then they feel like so different. They think there's something better actually all of a sudden, just by moving to, no matter what place it is, Japan or Korea, any places. but especially those Anglo countries, that makes them feel kind of it it's something that it's everybody's dream to move there. But maybe certainly true like 20 years ago, maybe 30 years ago, even more. But it's less and less. I talk to young people here, they don't really give a shit about. Actually, they don't even want to go. I think it's still like a lot of parents that have that notion, always like going abroad somehow to learn from OS. But you have a lot of way more opportunity actually in China now, and those who realize this, have no shame about this face giving and all this stuff. They just move back and have better opportunities here, to make better living, a better lifestyle within your same people, basically. So yeah, that's kind of like a really interesting thing idea I want to share with you guys. So, all right, let me know what you think about this idea and in the comment section. Okay, peace out.